What up, Reach? I hope you guys are having a good time this week in lockdown. I actually forgot completely to check what day it is. You guys can tell me, I guess. Is it, I think we're like a day 26 or something like that. So I hope you guys are well. So I'm going to be bringing the devotion today for the topic of this week. So last, just to do a quick recap over the last week and then the last few days. I know last week we've been looking into who Jesus is, who is God, and I know we saw a pretty awesome recap of that on Sunday. So that was pretty rad. And then this week we were going to be dealing with what has God done, and all of our lives. And again, I think for most of you, hopefully would have seen on Monday, we saw quite a bit of sharing from the group, and I found that really encouraging. Just seeing what God has done in everyone's lives. And a few of those that stuck out to me was, so I just noted some of them down, was God gives us breath daily, so every day he gives us breath. He helps us. Obviously in times like this he protects us, and he always protects us, but that's a noteworthy one. I really enjoyed this, so someone said, I don't know who said each of these, but he has our back. He gives us purpose, I think is a big one. Just in all the things that we're doing every day, like we can find purpose in Christ. And then another one, I also don't remember who said this, but you'll know if you see this, too many to recall or express. There's too many things that God does for us daily to express, and I think that's really awesome. And then moving on from there, we saw yesterday Pani just jumped into 1 Corinthians 13 for us, so we saw that devotional, and what came out of that, like the overall theme was that we have been rescued. That's something that God has done for us. He's rescued us. And what I also really liked is he also said that God's got us. It's like related to God has got our back. So then just jumping into the context for today. So, Pani mentioned that we're going to be, we're in Colossians, so we're jumping back into Colossians right now. We know that this is a letter that Paul wrote primarily to warn and encourage the church. And so the warning is obviously, it was warning against false teaching, and then the encouragement was to encourage the church there to press on in maturity, in their maturity with their relationship with God, and in their maturity with Christ. So that's just the context. So jumping into the text we're going to deal with today, we're looking at Colossians 2:13. So I'm just going to read now quickly from Colossians 2:12 to 14, just so we can get a little bit of before and after there. Okay, so starting at verse 12. Having been buried with him in baptism, in which you were also raised with him through faith in the powerful working of God, who raised him from the dead. Now we're jumping into 13, so this is the verse that we're dealing with today. And you, who were dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, God made alive together with him, having forgiven us all our trespasses. And then continuing on 14 quickly, by cancelling the record of debt that stood against us with its legal demands. This he set aside, nailing it to the cross. So if we just dig now into Colossians 2:13, so the middle piece we read there. So he starts by saying, and you. So who is Paul referring to here? Obviously, in this context, we are dealing with the Colossian believers, and that you is also you and I. It's the body, it's the church. So the second piece of that. So and you, who were dead in your trespasses, and the uncircumcision of your flesh. So what are we speaking about here when we talk about dead in our trespasses? What does that mean? So what I want us to try to think about here is it's essentially the spiritual condition in the context of the Colossian believers. So their spiritual condition before Christ, they were dead. So moving on from there, what does God do? God made alive together with him, having forgiven us all our trespasses. So essentially, despite being sinners, despite our sin and the result of sin, which we know is death, God took action. And what did he do? He gave his son, and he forgave us. And that makes us alive in him, and through in him and through Christ we are alive, and we are forgiven of our trespasses. And what I like here is we also see a direct comparison, right? So on the one hand, we see us being dead in our trespasses and uncircumcision, and then it's almost like catered for by us being alive in God and forgiven. So it's like a nice comparison there. So what I want us to think about is what actually comes out of this verse directly, and you know how that relates to the current topic that we have, like what has God done. So what do we see in this that God has done for us? He's given us new life. So by God's grace we have been saved, which has obviously been like a big theme over the last while, especially with Easter and all of that. So we were dead from our sin and our trespasses, and God has given us new life. That's what He's done for us, the ultimate gift. So what I wanted to do as well, just quickly there, is just raise a couple questions that we can all think about, and these are things that I really hope you guys will go and just think about for today. So the first one is, what does it mean to live this new life that God has given us? So what does that actually mean for us? Second one is, what does this new life that God has given you and God has given me, what does that look like personally in your life? And then the third one is, how should this move us to act? So what should our response be when we consider what Jesus has done, what God has done for us? How should we be responding? So I think that was quite a short one today, guys, but really exciting stuff, and I really hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and chat soon.